Despite how difficult things may have been lately, you are the hero of the biggest story ever told. So it turns out you have a lot more in common with Luke Skywalker, Katniss Everdeen, or any other major hero in any other story that's ever existed. Not just in media, not just in pop culture, but in lore, myth, legend, any story that's ever been told, you are running through the same cycle they are. Welcome back, my name is Blake, and I guide those going on a spiritual journey to answer the questions they didn't even know they had. Today, I'm going to be talking about a couple of things that are really important to me when it comes to storytelling and also understanding your own story. The book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, was authored by Joseph Campbell. And in this book, Joseph Campbell did countless amounts of research and made this realization that the story that we've been telling throughout our whole history through myth, legend, and even in present day Hollywood is the same story. It's the same battle of the hero's journey. Now, the hero's journey that Joseph Campbell expands on has at least 12 steps in it. I don't necessarily want to go over all 12 of those steps, but I'm going to go over more of an abbreviated kind of concept, which is this answering the call and recognizing that you will find a guide, and he's going to lead you through this transformational process that you will experience a challenge and a trial, and ultimately you'll complete that so that you can be born again, be rejuvenated, and then return back to where you started. It's this experience that is the plot line for pretty much every movie that you've ever watched. It's the same story of Star Wars, it's the same story of Hunger Games and Batman. All of these movies all follow this exact same model. What's even more interesting is that it's not just a movie model. The reason why that model has been followed so much is because it's the same story that we all experience. I don't know who you are directly, but I'm willing to bet there is something in your life that you are experiencing right now that is challenging you. Something scary, maybe even something threatening. It's been said before that you should never let a crisis go to waste. And that's essentially what's happening in the hero's journey. There's this catastrophic event that occurs, and when that catastrophic event occurs, it's the call to adventure. It's this actual moment where you need to show up and experience an uncomfortable and difficult moment so that you can go through this trial, meet a guide, and turn into this new version of something that you didn't even know there was. You'll battle this dragon and recognize that that dragon was yourself. I know this firsthand, for which I've told this story before, about when I lived in Kansas City and I got let go from my job. And I ran out of money, and ended up deciding to live in San Francisco, and I sold everything and I drove out there and I started driving Uber for several months, and I had so many interviews and I kept being turned down, and I kept missing all these opportunities, but I kept at it. And what was interesting, and the big revelation that I realized, is that that whole process, despite how hard it was part of the amazing adventure that I'm on. It's a lot easier maybe to say this in hindsight once it's over, because it's so much easier to reflect on these difficult times when they're not in the moment anymore. But I learned a lot from it. I was able to come back from that, return home, if you may, as a different person, as somebody with different insight. I remember my brother actually recommended this movie called Finding Joe, which is about this whole concept that I'm talking about. This Joseph Campbell hero's journey and how it relates to every single story that has ever been. I highly recommend it. I'm going to put a link down below for it. Where I'm at right now in my life is I've accepted this calling to pursue being a coach and trying to help teach people about the transformational changes in life that are all a part of everyday experiences. And so here I am making YouTubes and investing in this whole new type of business that I'm not even familiar with. A book that's really important to me was a book by Matthew Dicks called Storyworthy. What's really great about Storyworthy is it is so brilliantly written as a book of how to tell stories. Even people who don't even realize that they can tell stories actually have more stories than they even realize. He goes into a lot of detail about how to recognize these little 60-second moments of your life and how you can turn any of those 60-second moments into a story that really attaches to people. Because if you're able to successfully tell a story, it's going to live in somebody's heart forever. One of the really great chapters that he does is he talks about how Jurassic Park is not a movie about dinosaurs. This is the old Jurassic Park. I was 10 years old when this came out, so hopefully this doesn't spoil anything for anybody. But Jurassic Park isn't a movie about dinosaurs. Jurassic Park is about Dr. Grant, this middle-aged man who doesn't like children and ends up going on this adventure with these children and then suddenly realizes he does like children. That's the end of the movie. There's a point where he's in the tree with the brontosauruses and he's going to look after the kids, and he has this raptor claw that he ends up throwing on the ground after early in the movie he had threatened some kid with it to scare the shit out of him. But he surrenders to that realization that he's no longer that guy. He went through this whole hero's journey. He had a problem, he had the trialation, and he came around to be somebody new. Even at the very end of that movie, the very last scene, he's making eyes with I forget her name, his love interest in the movie. But he makes eyes with her, holding the kids in the helicopter as they fly off the island. And he has that moment where he's ready. He's ready to be a parent now. And these kind of examples of movies are what make movies interesting. They're what make stories important because they mimic our lives so much. We go through these stories on a constant basis, and none of them aren't started without some kind of very aggressive and radical kind of catastrophe in the beginning, whether it's being left from a job or being passed up for a promotion or having somebody important in your life pass away. All of these very difficult moments are the call for adventure. It's this moment that's going to define you if you're willing to go through a difficult process to take that cycle and come back around. Embrace you to really dig down deep and analyze what are your call to actions that you may have already taken. Or is there something really challenging going on in your life right now that maybe is a call to action that you've been resisting? It's important to really pay attention to these whisper moments. I brought this up in one of my first videos and go into more detail about what whisper moments I experienced that I may have been ignoring all along. If I had really paid attention to them sooner, I may have been able to get to my passions a lot quicker in life. Granted, there would have been a lot of sacrifice and a lot of hard choices to have made at that moment, and maybe I wasn't really ready to answer the call yet. When you answer the call, sometimes you need a good guide, and that guide can come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. I hope that if you're going through something important, I can be your guide to help you battle some of these so that you can go through the cycle, battle your demon, and come out to be a better person for yourself. As always, I really appreciate you watching the video, especially if you watch it this far. It means so much to me that you enjoy it. If you could like, subscribe, and share the video, it would ensure that you always get the latest things that I put out. And if you really want to go for extra credit, I also have a newsletter that I have a link in the bottom below. I'm going to give you a PDF, which is accumulation of all the books over the past decade that have been the most impactful to making changes in my life, which I'm going to send to you when you sign up. If you're also interested in doing a discovery call with me for some coaching, I have a link also in my link tree that's available for you to that. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.